Hi, everybody. I'm BL Allison. So I want to talk to you today about the great approaches of the hierarchy. But first, I want to put my presentation in some kind of perspective. The material comes from Esoteric Psychology 2, where the third chapter is on humanity today. And within that context, DK talks about the world situation, the new groups of world servers, and the great approaches. So I'm like to talk to you about two of the sections from the great approaches, the stepping down of hierarchical methods and the urgency and the need and how to meet it. Each department and section of the hierarchy is working together today as one unit. Though not all of the masters and their groups are occupied with the immediate problem of the human crisis, yet subjectively, all are engaged with the task of bringing order out of chaos and are working together, each in his own sphere and in the closest mental understanding. So there are really no divided interests, no separate groups, and no difference of opinion. This condition must be duplicated on the outer plane of physical life as well. And while complete subordination of individual and group interest to the general movement towards world understanding and stabilization cannot yet be achieved, a closer approach is more possible today than at any previous time. Obstacles to this include selfish ambition of government leaders, the separative or group leaders, the separative instincts of the senior workers in any group, who unduly influence the rank and file of the membership. And progress could be made towards mutual understanding if a large number of world aspirants and disciples desired it, if they were willing to participate in such an effort, and if they made the attempt to organize a closer coming together and movement towards spiritual understanding. Progress in cooperation entails a restatement of the ideal on the part of each individual aspirant and disciple. A rededication to the immediate urgency of the plan and to the demand of world distress. It requires the individual formulation of ideas in terms of sacrifice and resultant activity. One of the things of immediate assistance to the hierarchy of masters, and therefore humanity, is a widespread effort to get in touch with group leaders in various towns, cities, countries, and continents. This refers to all those group leaders who are sensitive to the doctrine of goodwill and who can vision an ideal of group unity carried forward without any attempt to disturb the normal outer group activity. This entails recognition of a common ideal, willingness to submerge points of difference, and to emphasize points of contact. Many might be willing to do this for the period of the emergency and as an interesting experiment, and carried forward over a limited time, this united endeavor to spread goodwill and understanding. This will also entail the willingness to cooperate with all groups within a given radius of contact and the temporary relinquishing of personal ambitions and methods in order to meet the serious emergency facing humanity. The basis of the possible success of an effort consists in the fact that within each group are always to be found members of the new group of world servers. Upon this fact, we can count, and we can depend on their strength of the inner integration produced by the synthesizing point of contact. Another reason for the presumption of success lies in the fact that such an effort will only be the normal working out into physical expression of that with which the masters have already established. This attempt on the part of all of us will be a paralleling expression of an inner subjective fact. One of the agendas is to determine how to more effectively stimulate the new group of world servers so that they could see the vision with clarity, work with renewed optimism, and produce on Earth the counterpart of the inner spiritual organization. In other words, act as if, as we are frequently told. The problem to be met by the disciples and aspirants in the world today is the possibility and right procedure by means of a more specific and definite push or organized activity to reach the leaders of groups everywhere. It would be well to discuss the ways and means to swing these leaders into a joint activity without interfering with their individual group purposes, loyalties, and obligations. Careful work must be put behind this effort. This includes mental work, subjective reflection, and organized visioning and significant sacrifices. A start in this direction has been made, and it needs expansion elsewhere with careful development. Group integrity, loyalties, and purpose must be preserved, but the cooperation of the groups must be invoked in the task of spreading the healing energy of goodwill, which is the active principle of peace. Peace, not inert pacifism, is what is needed today. A plan should also be drawn up so that the various peace societies could at least temporarily be swung into an allied and paralleling activity. Leaders of peace organizations could be approached with a definite program and their cooperation requested. This program of unification of efforts of more advanced groups in the world will demand sacrifice and satisfactory compromise on both sides. But where there is sincerity of purpose, where there is a willingness to recognize the need for change in technique and terminology, then definite progress can be made. And the ranks of the men of goodwill, as organized under hierarchical impulse, can be greatly increased. Those who respond to this appeal will know the methods they should pursue. The hierarchy is working primarily during the next few years through 3 groups of masters who are on the first, second, and third rays. Masters on the first ray are dealing with the important figures today in world government. They are subject to impression from their souls, and all are fulfilling their individual destiny and influencing their respective nations along the lines of national destiny. The period of intensive and seemingly destructive readjustment has been drastic and needed. This must not be forgotten. Mistakes in technique have been made, and often the law of love has been infringed. But the time of national readjustments and necessary processes of realignment must be completed. This should inaugurate a period of renewed relationships on a wide scale throughout the world and see the commencement of established friendships and a new era of right and constructive world contacts. This was not possible on a large scale before, owing to the fact that humanity had not suffered enough and was not adequately sensitive to others. It had no inner integration such as is now possible through developed means of communication and the growth of telepathic sensitivity. The abuses of the law of living had not been generally recognized and known for what they are by a sufficient number of people. The work of the great first ray influences is rapidly and materially changing all this, and out of the lessons learned, the structure of the new civilization can become possible. The work of the second ray masters is now intensifying, and builders of the new civilization can begin to make their presence felt. It is here that the work of the new group of world servers can be noted and developed. The question may be raised whether we are omitting to recognize the presence of the vast millions of the unenlightened masses who are kept down by their leaders, either through fear, applied poverty, or regimentation. These constitute a harnessed menace, but that harness is rapidly becoming worn. And when the leash slips or breaks, it is difficult to forecast what the dire results may be. The caged wild beast of the unenlightened and innocent, who work without the means for pleasure or leisure, who are underfed and exploited, can indefinitely be held back. The one hope of the world is that enlightened and responsible people will readjust world relations, world conditions, and the world economic situation so that the removal of abuses may succeed. Then there will be no necessity for the prevailing misery that is rapidly reaching boiling point. Let us not forget, if this seems to be unduly optimistic, that one light, even if small, can light up a whole area. The second ray influences are being poured through educational institutions and groups, through religious bodies, and all men and women who can vision higher possibilities in the world of spiritual values. This is being done in the hope that a united stand will be possible and will produce a synthesis of effort, will be productive in its turn of a real world stabilization. The third ray masters are working strenuously in the world of business and finance through the agency of those animated by a spirit of selfless service, and there are many. The general method employed is one of inspiration and of the presentation of moments of crisis. These moments offer opportunity for the activity of some disciple and provide a needed lesson for groups or nations. The technique employed by these third ray masters is to develop the minds of aspirants and thinkers in the specific field of business so they can think in larger terms than those of their own selfish business interests. Moments of contact are arranged between members of the new group of world servers and prominent people working in the field of economic enterprise, presenting opportunities for recognition and cooperation. The major method with which we concern ourselves and the most potent instrument in the hands of the spiritual hierarchy is the spreading of goodwill and its fusion into a united and working potency. Goodwill is today a dream, a theory, a negative force. It should be developed into a fact, a functioning ideal, and a positive energy. That is our work, and we are called to cooperate in bringing it about. The task is engrossing, but as it constitutes an imposed life pattern, it can be worked out in every aspect of our daily life. We are now called to serve intensively for a period of years and to shoulder responsibility we have known about for several years, but have not shouldered. Our interest has been evoked, but not demonstrated as it might have been. The demand for cooperation has been clearly sounded from the inner side and by the new group of world servers. We have responded with some aid, but not with sacrifice. We have given some assistance, but it has been the minimum. We have been told that the members of the new group of world servers are working in every land to spread goodwill, world understanding, and religious unity. The idea has been reassuring, and we have rested back upon their efforts, the efforts of a hard-pressed few. And now on to the section on the urgency of the need and how we can meet it. The emergency is upon us, in a united spiritual effort, prayerfully carried forward, wisely adjusted to environing needs, can change the aspect of world affairs. If there is no appreciable change in human relations, then there will be little hope of bringing about the united effort which will lead to world stabilization, international understanding, and economic independence. For it is the goodwill of the powerful groups for humanity and the goodwill of the intelligentsia and the influential middle classes which will bring about the needed changes, which can then affect every human being. The hope of the world today lies in the development of goodwill, not peace, as the word is usually interpreted to mean merely an enforced freedom from war, but the cultivation of a spirit of goodwill intentionally applied and worked out with the purpose into the fabric of the individual and national life. The next consideration is, how can these ideas be intelligently understood? How can they evoke the cooperation of world disciples? What is possible and can be done if we, each and all, face the issue and deal with the opportunity and responsibility presented? If we regard world service in this crisis as a necessary part of our spiritual life, demanding from us all that we have to give, plus that supreme extra effort which spells success in every case, a demand for full cooperation that very few have yet given. If what is here set forth is true, and if what we know of world affairs gives in any way a true picture of the present world condition, and it is understated, if anything, then any intelligent man or woman can surely see that it is going to take the united sacrificing effort of every unit in the whole body corporate to promote goodwill as a healing factor, perhaps the only healing factor in humanity. Meditation groups could carry forward their meditations in such a manner that an inner fusion can take place, producing the awakening of the heart centers of the members and the consequent urge to go forth into the world of daily living, to love and give and to stimulate. Privately and in group gatherings, the great invocation stanza 1 could be said, emphasizing the final words, "So let it be and help us do our part." Some have learned to say these words with intensity of feeling, raising clasped hands above their head, and then at the last word, bringing them down to the forehead and then to the heart. The raising of the hands above the head and their return in touching the forehead and heart are symbolic of the lifting of the heart and life and consciousness to divinity, and the subsequent and consequent downflow of spiritual life into the personality, instrument through which the loving soul must work out the expression of goodwill. The emphasis is laid upon the heart center and upon the necessity to hold the forces there, symbolized by the clasped hands resting upon the heart, because the heart is the center of loving, giving energy and the distributor of life. The responsibility now rests upon those who have received the message. Until those who know and who have the way out presented to them consecrate themselves without reservation to the helping of the world in its hour of need, the work will not be done and the plans of the hierarchy cannot materialize. At a gathering of the great ones not long ago, the question, "What can we do?" was asked. A long silence fell upon the assembled group, and then they, one and all, simultaneously voiced the reply. "Let us touch the hearts of men anew with love, so that those who know will love and give. Let us give love ourselves." Now, DK tells us the above may be a statement of fact, or it may simply be a symbolic and allegorical way of helping us to grasp our need. That's for us to decide. However, there may be those who wish to say the following each morning or at noon. I know, O Lord of life and love, about the need. Touch my heart anew with love, that I too may love and give. Let us, in surrender of our personal desires, join in the common task of leading humanity into the field of peace. DK asked aspirants and disciples 2 questions. Do you, in truth, accept the situation as outlined? And where at this time do you place your life emphasis? The answering of these 2 questions in the light of your soul and your personal earnestness will greatly clarify your minds and your way of living and working. It will also indicate to those who are serving the plan upon the subjective side of life who the servers are and who the aspirants and disciples who can be counted on at this moment of world crisis. The lines of world cleavage are becoming more clearly defined, and humanity is slowly forming itself into 3 groups as seen from the subjective side of life. First, the group of those who violently, actively, and sincerely are partisans of certain basic and well-known ideologies, which can roughly be divided into the fascist Nazi group, the democratic group, and the communistic group. Second, the relatively acquiescent masses who, under the regimes endorsed by the 3 above ideologies, they live, they love, and they seek to understand little of what is happening to them. They accept the familiar or the newly imposed rule with acquiescence, provided their ordinary affairs of life can proceed along usual lines. And third, a rapidly growing group of those who are aware of the other groups, who appreciate the idealism and effort of the first group, and also recognize the helplessness of the masses. They are the men and women of goodwill. They stand ready to do what is possible to help restore world equilibrium and bring understanding, cooperation, and unity into play on a worldwide scale. Behind these 3 groups, equally interested in them all, stands another group. It's smaller but spiritually potent and is composed of those who work to further God's plans consciously on earth. They work in touch with the plan and have a deep knowledge of the general trend of the evolutionary urge. They're directing world force into the desired channels and are assisted in their efforts by the new group of world servers. They are all pledged to establish the kingdom of God on earth, for which the world is ripe and whose coming was foretold by all the great world religions. Nothing can stop the emergence of that kingdom. It might be of value if we look at the point of view of the spiritual leaders of the race, of the planetary hierarchy, and of Christ and his church. These workers look out upon a world distressed and full of pain. The economic problem looms large and is a determining factor in many cases. In a world of plenty, men are starving on every hand or subsisting on a deplorable insufficiency, while others of their fellow men have too much and hold on to it. In a world full of activity, men are forced into unemployment, and millions of men and women have nothing to do but exist upon relief through charity or crime. In a world where all men desire peace and the opportunity to live in happiness at home or abroad, nations are arming themselves or fortifying their frontiers in an effort to achieve security. In a world of organized religions, the same condition of chaos is to be seen. The churches in all lands are trying frantically to keep their hold, spiritual, mental, or financial, over the people, and they're losing because the days of control by the priestly caste are over. The work of the great world religions has been eminently successful and has been carried through to the desired consummation. And now the new world religion, out of the kingdom of God, is definitely on the way. Such is the dark side of the picture. And it is dark indeed. Men are troubled and feel that there is no sure ground to be found anywhere. The present world situation has in it the seeds of dire trouble and catastrophe faces the people, as it has 3 times before, though on a much lesser scale. This can all be averted if those who know the goal and see the vision and the emerging possibilities rally their force and, by the strength of love and sacrifice, offset the forces of fate and of death. As those who guide and teach upon the inner side of life look out upon the world they see, in every country, in every race, and in every religious body, every ideology or school of thought, economic, political, and religious, those who are moved by love of their fellow men, those are actuated by an earnest desire for their true welfare. A man's political and religious affiliations can be strongly held and inspire his true loyalty, and yet need in no way prevent his being an active part of the new group of world servers. Servants of the spiritual hierarchy and the world disciples are found in every nation. They are loyal to that nation's ideology or political trend of thought or government. The members of the new group of world servers embrace every political creed and recognize the authority of every imaginable religion. Men and women of goodwill can be discovered functioning in every group, no matter what its ideology or creed or belief. The hierarchy does not look for cooperators in any one school of thought, political creed, or national government. It finds them in all and cooperates with all. This DK is frequently said, yet many find it difficult to believe. So convinced are they that their peculiar belief is best. It may be best for them, but not for the brother of another persuasion, nation, or religion. We find members of the new group of world servers scattered everywhere. They are the only agents that the hierarchy chooses to employ at this time, and to them is committed the task of doing the following things: restoring the world balance through understanding and goodwill, bringing harmony among men and nations by the revelation of the widespread goodwill existing everywhere, precipitating through spiritual perception and correct interpretation the kingdom of God on earth. This is a gigantic task, but not an impossible one, provided that there is united aspiration, united sacrifice, and the interrelating of the 3 following groups: the planetary hierarchy, the new group of world servers, or the disciples and aspirants and spiritual intelligentsia of the world, and the men and women of goodwill found everywhere. The task in the coming year of climax, for which preparation must be made, is first bringing about this interrelation on a large scale through discovering those who respond to this message and idea. Second, to educate such people in the laws of love and of right understanding, which are in truth the laws of the kingdom of God, which Christ came to initiate. And third, to reach and awaken the men and women of goodwill through the wide use of the media, using it with wisdom and discretion and the use of correct words and phrases. And fourth, to discover men of like ideas and so organize their minds that each will approach the problem in his own way, but with the same worldwide objective of spreading understanding and bringing about harmonious adjustments. This will be done through the agency of the awakened world aspirants. The intelligent statesmen who love humanity and work self sacrificingly for the general good, the men and women of goodwill, working each in his own place, city, and nation, and the quiet work of the units of service cooperating with all above. This is a simple but potent program. This is the emerging fifth kingdom in nature, whose citizens always bring beauty into the world, whose citizens are distinguished by goodwill, which must, in the long run, bring the right kind of peace and not pacifism on earth. It is such a simple program that many overactive minds will reject it on the grounds that it is too simple. Simple ideas work out when complex and complicated ones fail in their objective. The hierarchy of masters is governed by simplicity, and this, which is one of their plans, must be distinguished by it also. So, what are the plans today, and in what manner can you aid in the task of saving the world? It can be greatly helped by the discovery, registration, and education of men and women of goodwill in the world. Their united goodwill, at present latent, unused, and unorganized, can become a world force, and through sheer weight of numbers, these people can make their presence effectively felt. It will be a force who can mold public opinion through the expression of intelligent love, which will employ no separative devices, no armed force, no coercion, and no political scheming and manipulation. There can be such a vast number of men and women of goodwill in the world, consciously in touch with each other throughout the planet, that their voice will not be negligible, nor their expressed desires impotent. It is this particular method of straightening out the world which the spiritual hierarchy have determined to use. This method is based upon two premises. First, the proven fact of the success of the work which Christ instituted. He came to demonstrate in his own person, the love of God. Prior to his time, there was little expression of that love objective in the world, and little philanthropy or sense of responsibility for one's brother. Second, it is a method which has in it a long range success, and which yet can have at the same time an immediate reaction. This success and reaction are dependent upon all of you who are aware of these facts and set in to do the desired work. The new group of world servers provides a channel through which the power of God, focused in the planetary brotherhood, can flow, and that power is not intended to be destructive. The destructive forces of the planet are doing their directed and needed work. The effects must be balanced and offset by the work of the world servers. The power to be released can and will heal humanity's wounds and will bind all men together in a planned synthesis. The new group of world servers has members in every land. They are practical, intelligent people working towards an objective which is capable of immediate and practical application. They are talking of understanding and cooperation in all fields of human thought and life, and are emphasizing the future and unavoidable expression of such love, unavoidable under evolutionary law. It is the next great human development. In the distant past of the race, humanity faced such a crisis as is now upon us. The race was then impregnated with intellect, and the human or the fourth kingdom came into being. The great latent power of self consciousness was born, and men became individuals. Now the race faces another impregnation, this time with love, and the fifth kingdom in nature, the kingdom of God, can be born and can function upon the outer world of manifestation. Group consciousness will be seen along with the power to identify with the group rather than selfish interests. The new group of world servers, standing at a midway point between the spiritual hierarchy and the world of men, are the agents of this process and can lead men out of the crisis which it has brought about. They are expressions of the intended goodwill and a leavening force in their environment. They do and say nothing which could increase the existing cleavages among people, races, and religions. Let us leave it at that, for it is a simple statement of a simple way to lay the ground for needed changes. Well, that's all I've got for you today. But there is certainly a lot of food for thought that DK gave us here in Esoteric Psychology, Volume 2, Chapter 3. And while the book was first printed in 1942, you can all see just how applicable this information still is to humanity today. Thank you.